The ocean has always been full of secrets. Some of them are beautiful, some are terrifying, and some are so strange that even after decades, no one can fully explain them. Imagine sailing across a quiet, endless ocean. The wind is calm, the waves move slowly beneath your ship. Everything feels peaceful, until suddenly you spot another ship in the distance. At first it looks normal, just floating quietly on the water. But something feels wrong. The ship isn't moving. No smoke from the engines, no voices from the deck, no crew members waving or signaling, just silence. As your ship slowly gets closer, a strange feeling begins to grow in your chest. The vessel looks perfectly fine. Its sails are still standing, nothing appears damaged. But when someone finally climbs aboard, the truth becomes chilling. The ship is completely empty. Food is still sitting on the tables, clothes are lying inside cabins, personal belongings are untouched, even the navigation equipment is still there. Everything is exactly where it should be, except for one thing. Every single crew member has vanished. No bodies, no blood, no signs of struggle. It's as if the entire crew simply disappeared into thin air. And that's the terrifying mystery we're exploring today. The story of a ghost ship that left investigators, sailors, and historians confused for generations. Because the biggest question still remains: where did all the crew members go? To understand this mysterious story, we first need to go back in time, to an era when traveling across the ocean was far more dangerous than it is today. In the late 19th century, ships were the lifeline of international trade. They carried goods, food, and valuable cargo between continents. Long voyages across the ocean were common, but they were never easy. Sailors spent weeks or even months at sea. Storms could appear without warning. Navigation tools were basic compared to modern technology. There were no satellites, no GPS systems, and no instant communication. Once a ship left the harbor, it was mostly on its own. And if something went wrong in the middle of the ocean, help could be days or even weeks away. Yet despite these risks, thousands of ships traveled the oceans every year. Most of them completed their journeys safely. But occasionally something strange happened. Ships were sometimes found drifting across the sea with no crew on board. These vessels looked normal from the outside. Their cargo was untouched, their equipment was intact, but the people who operated them were gone. Such ships became known as ghost ships. Some sailors believed these vessels were cursed, others believed pirates attacked them, and some thought the ocean itself was hiding something far more mysterious. But among all ghost ship stories, one case became especially famous. It began with a merchant vessel that was scheduled to travel across a long route carrying valuable cargo. The ship was strong, well-built, and fully prepared for the journey. Its captain was experienced, respected, and trusted by his crew. Everything seemed normal when the ship departed. The cargo was loaded carefully, supplies were stored for the long voyage, crew members said goodbye to their families and stepped aboard, ready to begin weeks at sea. The ship slowly left the harbor, disappearing into the horizon. At first, nothing unusual happened. Days passed peacefully. The wind pushed the vessel forward across the open ocean. The crew followed their daily routines. Navigation checks were recorded carefully in the ship's logbook. Everything seemed to be going according to plan. But then, something happened. Weeks later, another ship sailing through the same waters noticed something strange in the distance. A vessel was floating quietly across the ocean. At first, this didn't seem unusual. Ships often crossed paths in busy sea routes. But the captain noticed something odd. The vessel wasn't moving properly. Its sails were hanging loosely, and no signals were being sent. The captain tried to communicate. He ordered his crew to send visual signals across the water, but there was no response. The ship continued drifting silently. Now the situation started to feel strange, so the captain decided to investigate. He ordered a small team of sailors to board the mysterious vessel and check what was happening. As the rescue boat approached the ship, the crew members felt uneasy. Something about the scene didn't look right. There were no voices, no footsteps, no movement anywhere. When they finally climbed onto the deck, a cold silence surrounded them. The ship looked perfectly normal, but no one was there. The sailors slowly began searching the vessel. Cabins were opened, rooms were checked, every corner was examined, and what they discovered was deeply unsettling. The crew's belongings were still inside their rooms, clothes were folded neatly, personal items remained untouched, food supplies were still stored in the kitchen. Even meals appeared to have been prepared recently. Nothing looked abandoned, yet there was no sign of the crew. The rescuers searched the entire ship again, hoping to find someone hiding or injured, but the result was always the same. Empty rooms, silent hallways, a deserted deck. It's as if everyone had vanished at the same moment. But here's where the mystery became even more confusing. The ship itself wasn't damaged. There were no signs of a violent attack, no broken equipment, no burned areas, no obvious reason for the crew to abandon the vessel. And most importantly, the lifeboat was missing. That discovery created a new theory. Perhaps something frightened the crew so badly that they decided to escape using the lifeboat. But that only created more questions. Why would experienced sailors abandon a perfectly working ship? Why leave behind valuable cargo? Why leave food, equipment, and personal belongings? None of it made sense. Investigators later examined the ship's logbook. The final entry recorded normal sailing conditions. Nothing unusual was mentioned.
No storms, no mechanical problems, no emergency warnings. After that final entry, the logbook simply stopped. It was as if the story had been cut off in the middle of a sentence. When the ship was eventually taken to port, authorities began a full investigation. Experts examined every part of the vessel. They searched for clues that might explain the disappearance, but each discovery only made the mystery deeper. One theory suggested that pirates might have attacked the ship, but if pirates had boarded the vessel, they would have stolen the cargo. They also would have left signs of violence, yet the cargo remained untouched. Another theory suggested mutiny. Perhaps the crew rebelled against the captain. But again, there was no evidence of fighting or chaos. The ship looked calm and orderly. Some experts believed a natural disaster might have caused panic. Perhaps the crew feared the ship was about to sink. Maybe they rushed into the lifeboat to escape danger. But when investigators examined the ship's structure, it showed no serious damage. It was still perfectly capable of sailing. Another possibility involved toxic fumes. Since the cargo included industrial materials, some experts suggested that gas might have leaked from the cargo barrels. The crew might have feared an explosion and temporarily abandoned the ship. But if that were the case, they likely planned to return once the danger passed. Yet they never came back, and their lifeboat was never found. This left investigators with a terrifying possibility. Maybe something happened to the crew after they left the ship. If they escaped in the lifeboat, they could have faced rough waves, storms, or strong currents. A small lifeboat would have been extremely vulnerable in the open ocean. If a storm appeared suddenly, the crew might not have survived. But even that explanation didn't fully solve the mystery, because experienced sailors rarely abandon a safe vessel unless the situation is truly desperate. And according to the evidence, the ship didn't appear to be in desperate condition. Still, rumors began spreading among sailors. Some believed supernatural forces were involved. Stories began circulating about sea monsters, cursed waters, or even mysterious disappearances connected to the Bermuda Triangle. These theories captured people's imaginations, but none of them could be proven. Years passed, then decades. Historians studied the case repeatedly, hoping modern research might finally reveal the truth, but the mystery remained unsolved. And that's what makes ghost ship stories so fascinating. They remind us that the ocean still holds secrets we cannot fully understand. The disappearance of that crew didn't just puzzle investigators, it deeply affected the families waiting back home. For them, the story wasn't just a mystery, it was a heartbreaking loss. Wives waited for husbands who never returned. Children grew up without fathers. Parents hoped for answers that never arrived. The lack of closure made the tragedy even more painful. Normally, when disasters happen at sea, there are witnesses, wreckage, or at least some explanation. But in this case, there was nothing. Just an empty ship drifting quietly across the ocean, and the haunting question that still echoes through history. What really happened on that voyage? Did the crew panic over a threat we still don't understand? Did they abandon the ship believing it was about to explode or sink? Or did something unexpected happen after they left the vessel? We may never know. Even today, sailors sometimes tell stories about ghost ships appearing silently in the distance. Ships that move slowly through fog. Ships with empty decks and broken sails. Most of these sightings probably have normal explanations, but stories like this one remind us why the ocean has always inspired both wonder and fear. Because no matter how advanced our technology becomes, the sea is still unpredictable. It's vast, it's powerful, and sometimes it keeps its secrets forever. Somewhere out there, beneath endless waves and shifting currents, the truth behind that ghost ship may still be hidden. Maybe the missing lifeboat drifted far away and sank without a trace. Maybe the crew faced a sudden storm no one recorded. Or maybe the real explanation is something we haven't discovered yet.
But one thing is certain. The image of that silent ship drifting alone across the ocean will always remain one of the most chilling mysteries in maritime history. A perfectly normal vessel, food on the tables, belongings still in place, a logbook that suddenly stopped, and 10 people who vanished without leaving a single clue. Even after more than a century, the ocean still hasn't given us the answer. And perhaps it never will, because sometimes the sea tells a story that ends with silence, a silence that leaves the world wondering, where did all the crew members go?